Here we go.
Testing?
We
Testing?
have video and we have audio.
Okay, good. Very good. Okay. I'd like to call a meeting to order. It's now 8:35. And if we can get a roll call, Debbie?
Chairman Vincent.
Here?
Rex Sims.
Here.
Bob Finnis.
Here.
Bob Mills. Henry Bird.
Here.
Fred Forbes.
Here.
Don Colapetro.
Here.
Okay, thank you. Item 3, review the following ordinance for consistency with the Bonita Springs Comprehensive Plan, an amendment to the Bonita Springs Land Development Code, Chapter 2, Administration, creating Section 2-3 to permit dogs in food establishments, providing for conflicts of law, severability, codification, Scrivener's errors, inclusion in code, and effective date. Audrey? Take us
Thank you. For the record, Audrey Vance, you did a wonderful job of reading the title block into the record. This is the statutory requirement that before we ever adopt anything in the land development regulations, we are required to come before the LPA for consistency with the comprehensive plan. Interesting enough, the Florida statute that involves dogs and ordinance requires the ordinance to be added to the land development code. So we are adding it as part of Chapter 2, which is a administration chapter, which I believe is the correct place to put it. I did receive a few comments on the draft you have, and I will be making revisions shortly. May I go over
Sure.
the ones that
Thank you.
unless you guys suggest others during the meeting or don't want those revisions. One is there's a typo on page 1. I'm just going to move the comma closer to the word establish. On page 2, Bob Finnis called me, and we just talked a few moments ago, adding in paragraph 2 that the permit applicant must obtain the authorization of the property owner, because sometimes a restaurant is not in the same as the property
Right.
owner, and the property owner would be one of the ones who would have insurance if the dog did something. Probably wants to have some control of that. Below that, in paragraph C, number 3, which is the last paragraph, believe it or not, that is the correct title of the governmental entity, the Division of Hotels and Restaurants of the Department of Business and Professional Regulation. What I will be doing is, after that one-time statement, I'll be putting hereinafter, quote, division, and then shortening it to division, so that I'm not just repeating that over and over.
Okay.
And that was a suggestion of Don Colapietro. Don also made the next suggestion, which makes a lot of sense. The food service operation material, you don't want the dogs to come into contact with things before they are being used, but afterwards, such as paper products. I mean, is it wrong if a dog uses a little bit of a doggy bag to be able to enjoy a little snack, assuming it's not too much or for that dog's tummy, for that type of dog. So inserting the word unused paper products.
Yes.
And Mr. Colapietro can explain further. Now, these standards are standards that are required by the statute to be placed in, but it says including but not limited to, so adding that word, I think we're okay. If we're not, we'll find out probably from the division. And then in the revocation section, I would like to add that the property owner also has the ability to revoke at any time. Since, again, if they're not owning and if the restaurant is out of control, you want to make it very clear they have the control over the property with this permit. Those are the suggested changes. If anything else that you would like to add, I'll be happy to do so.
Any comments from the board?
Yes. Item 2 on page 3, it's talking about these little synthesizer hand voice things. They're a pain in the neck, and to have one on each table, they disappear and they get lost, they get thrown away, and it would be something that if an inspector came and one of them was missing, it would be a penalty. So I would suggest that in the area it would be the same thing, only mounted on the wall, or wall mounted, or permanently mounted, not having them loose on the table.
And I'm pulling up the statute for that. I believe that came straight from the statute. Patrons in a designated outdoor area shall be advised they should wash their hands before waterless shall be provided at all tables in the designated outdoor area. The only thing I could suggest is to lessen that situation, have some language in there, and also at, the wall. So if somebody comes in, if an inspector comes in and one is not there because somebody might have taken it at the last seating or, they somehow disappeared, there would be the ability to at least have some mitigating circumstances.
In my particular case, a great many of my clients on the deck out there are children, and having a loose item on the table for a bunch of 6-year-old kids is just a little much. So let's have something that's bolted on or screwed to the wall. We could have one available in the area, but I don't want them loose on the table.
Now,
How
we're talking
about
I
if-
understand, but the
hand
Yeah,
statute
hand
requires that the ordinance include these standards. Shall include but not be limited to the following requirements. So it is a statutory requirement. I could add so that there's some mitigating. I mean, if you could somehow put it in a container that made it less likely somebody's going to lift it or take it, like a nice little doggy ceramic thing. I don't know. I'm making this up. But it
Could
is a
we-
requirement, so I cannot take it out of the
Well, I wouldn't want
ordinance,
someone to be written up for a violation simply because the little thing is missing. I'm perfectly willing to put a couple of them on there that we can screw to the wall or fasten down permanently that are going to be there, that could be used by anyone, but to have the individual on the table and then hand that a cause to have a write-up is not acceptable.
How about if we
then
change
it's
the
not
word?
acceptable to do the ordinance because the ordinance the state statute to do the ordinance requires that language in the ordinance. So
What
I
if we
can
change
add
the
to
word
ordinance.
"at" to "for"?
Let's see. The statute says waterless hand sanitizer shall be provided at all tables in the designated outdoor area.
Okay.
The only thing I could suggest is make the designated outdoor area for dogs just 2 of the tables.
Yeah, but it doesn't say "on" the table.
No. At all tables.
So you could.
Oh, okay.
Doesn't
This
say
may
you
be
have-
accomplished-
Doesn't say you have to
right.
have it on the table. So you could do, you could have it,
everything.
yeah.
So that could be, adding a sentence, this may be accomplished by,
Don't even have to, really.
yeah.
It's
Just
their own
leave it.
discretion.
It's just, it doesn't say they got to be on the table.
So it'll be between, it won't be a city violation that you really need to worry about, it'd be the divisions.
Well, we take our state inspections very seriously. I think a lot of you know we got a nice letter from the governor that we were one of the 14 in the state that passed our all 3 years in a row. Only 14 in the state, so it's a very important thing to us, and we want to comply every way we can. And we do encourage our customers to bring the dogs, so we want to be a dog-friendly thing, and yet we want to comply with the requirements that we need to meet. So let's make it easy, and let's not make it something that's possible for a person to get written up. for-
Okay, I have a statute here, and the language in the statute mirrors the ordinance.
And the intent of that
The
statute.
intent of the statute is that, what is that question here? And I mean, if you can explain to an inspector, and an inspector says, shall be provided at all tables, since it does not say on all tables.
Exactly.
Therefore, I have the ability by doing so, by having it in that area, if the inspector signs off, I think you're fine.
Okay.
But I-
Rex, you're inspected by the state,
Yes,
and this is already a state ordinance, right?
The state allows local governments to provide this exemption, but in doing so, the local governments are required to do so with certain language in there, in the ordinance.
But if a state inspector came to inspect your place, he's going to inspect it based upon the state statute, right?
I would assume so, yes, sir.
And that's what this is. So it's not going to make any difference as far as our ordinance is concerned, because it's already in the state statute.
By Henry, you're right, but prior to this, we did not have a sign up saying that this is a dog feeding area or whatever we have to do to comply with this requirement. And that didn't exist, but now it's going to exist that we're a dog-friendly establishment. And so then any requirements that the state has about dog-friendly rules, we would have to follow.
Okay.
Everyone would have to follow.
I would think, if you bolted a couple of those things to the wall or to the railing, you're
Right.
you're in
Provided-
compliance.
Right, because it's at all tables.
Right.
So
Yeah.
the person at that table can
Right.
go to this facility,
gonna
just
look-
like we have one out here.
They're going to look at what your intent was, too. Your intent was to have them, so.
Typically, if reading this, so at all tables, for anyone would mean at the table, not 5 feet away on the wall or a fence.
I don't I think that's something that Mr. Sims would have to bring up to the inspector, who, if the inspector is saying it's insufficient to have something 5 feet away, I mean, the inspector may look unreasonable
Yeah.
at that.
Well, the intent is that if you bring your dog and you're petting your dog, you might want to sanitize your hands before you eat. I mean, that would be the reason for it, right? It gives you the ability to clean your hands before you eat.
Yep, that's what it says.
So being in the area would probably suffice, but it says at all tables. And they'll define at. Is at 1 foot or is it 6 inches or,
I
you know?
don't know. I mean, I could put something like, for purposes of this ordinance, the city considers this to be either physically at a table or nearby,
We can't change the state statute, meaning we can't add, say, at or near.
Well, it says including but not limited to, so if we include maybe a further interpretation,
Yeah,
I don't think I have a problem with that.
Right.
That might help some inspectors.
So if I added something, let me just take a few seconds to add that.
It's either that, Rex, or you got to buy it in the gallon jug so that it's harder to take away.
Well, why I think about this is, I go in a lot of hospitals in my business, and a lot of hospitals buy these little sanitizer bottles by the cases, and they're all over the place, but they're gone. I mean, 2 minutes after it's put out there, it's gone.
Yep.
So I could think well, the same thing would happen in
Oh, it
our
will.
situation.
But the larger size would be less conducive to pocketing.
Any more discussion on that topic?
Yeah, I do. I've got a couple of things. On page 2, it'd be B3, about two-thirds of the way down on that number 3, it says surrounding property lines and public rights-of-way. Would it be wise to insert the word slash easement? Because a lot of times you may run into a public easement that's not in the right-of-way.
Okay, so diagram
It'd be
including,
under F of, after rights-of-way, just put slash easement.
I'd like to ask a question as it relates to number 3 here. John, is this under your purview? Did you help put this together? Or is this a state statute as well?
This just came from state statute.
It did?
actually, the designated area section, that
Yes.
section, that came from Cape Coral. I took Cape Coral's ordinance. I think this was what, there is some in here, I'm sorry, it is here. It's in state statute, subsection 3B3. And the only thing I did different was, and it says here, include public rights-of-way, including sidewalks and common pathway. Yeah, I have that. Okay. So, I mean, we'll just be adding that into there.
The reason I ask that is there are a lot of requirements inside of this paragraph here, and I'm wondering the intent. We will be accomplishing the intent, but there's a lot of information here: property lines, easements, all kinds of things like that. Is that absolutely necessary?
In terms of what we would need to adopt, yes. In terms of what is necessary to function, that's a little more difficult to say.
That's what I'm wondering, is that, can we simplify this a little bit where there are a number of ways of doing that today? I mean, we're talking about drawing here and we're locating everything around the building, down the street, you know, that sort of thing. I'm exaggerating, but there's a lot of information here, and all they want to do is allow pets to come into the outdoor area. The reason you would define this outdoor area is perhaps because you're trying to contain the dog, or you're looking at some kind of life safety issue.
Yes, sir.
The public safety and welfare, I don't think is going to be jeopardized, you know, or enhanced any by adding all of these entryways and exits, boundaries, surrounding property lines, rights-of-way, sidewalks, common pathways. You see what I'm getting at? Is
I don't disagree, and it's straight out of the that part is straight out of the statute again.
they almost have to hire a professional to, and then you
No, and
get
that's
in.
why I'm not sure you need to put easements in there, because why add I mean, that's almost requiring a property search. I mean, I think they just want it says a diagram, and it's not like it needs to be an AutoCAD perfect. I mean, hoping it doesn't need to be. That's up to you guys. But I imagine it would be a hand sketch showing here's the tables where they designate the area, here's where the property line is, roughly 15 feet, 20 feet, you know, whatever they're looking for. Probably make sure no dogs can venture off and just get run over.
You see, you're getting into issues now that real control issues here.
Yeah.
Well, I think that what you have are a lot of people placing input into a state statute. And then that then is transferred down to the local government saying, if you would like to allow for this type of operation, for the dogs within restaurants, you must then abide by what we have said. And you cannot be less restrictive. So I don't disagree with you, and that's kind of why I answered your first question the way I did. If you would like to adopt an ordinance to allow this type of operation, you need to adopt the language as it's presented, or at least in a very close form. Whether all of that language is necessary to protect the health, safety, and welfare, I don't know.
Yeah, you know, in this case, it's more than just language. I mean, if I'm an owner, I've got to produce these documents. And I'm going to be using, perhaps I have a survey. If I'm renting, I may not have any of that information from the owner.
That's true. And from a practical standpoint, I would look at this similar to how somebody wants to have outdoor seating, or somebody maybe wants to apply for an outdoor consumption on premises. And we have, generally speaking, been pretty relaxed when it comes to the standards of what's been submitted. As long as it provides the information that's required, and as long as it's clear to someone that picks up that description of the property, we've gone along with it. So what Audrey was saying, that it's not going to be required to be computer generated and all to scale, and that would be the case. We would still need to comply with what was in here, but we don't have to do it at such a level that places an additional burden upon a restaurant owner or property owner.
Let me ask a question of John real quick. When an applicant comes in, could the city go to the property appraiser's website or your GIS website and pull a diagram of the physical area where they want to put the tables, and then they can draw the circles for the tables and create that document relatively at ease at your office? That way you have the scale.
What we've done is almost two drawings. One, if they wanted to show the area where an outdoor seating would be, printing out an aerial from the property appraiser is adequate, because you can see not only the area where they want to have the outdoor seating with the surrounding area, but then another drawing that shows the specifics of the outdoor seating. It's very difficult to draw on the aerial and have it legible. So if there was another drawing that was, even if it was hand drawn, it showed the location of the tables, the location of any type of railing or separation between the outdoor seating and the outdoor area. And we've gone along with those. So it is possible to do without too much difficulty. Just remember that when you print it off the property appraiser, it's not the same as making sure that a surveyor's gone out there to make sure all easements are accounted for and all rights of way are
I would be in
correct.
favor of pulling up something on the site there and just having them submit a photograph and say, this is where we want to have the dogs here
It-
in this area.
And we've worked with photographs as well.
You know, that pretty well documents. Plus, tables don't always stay where you first put
Right.
them. You know, and then
Able
you,
to scale, that's kind of interesting.
that's right. You know, and then you have fire marshal requirements of 3 feet between, tables and that sort of thing. So, you know, if you get an overzealous kind of enforcement, then, you could run into problems with that.
Yeah, when it comes to the occupancy or the tables, what we've generally done is deferred to a certain extent to the fire district. There are certain building code requirements that we have to abide by, that we have to enforce. But outside of that, if a restaurant owner moves a table or adjusts the seating, if the fire district is satisfied with their location, then 99%
You
of the
will.
time we'll be satisfied as well.
I would think so. Well, if there's any way to reduce some of this, but you're saying a statute, so we cannot do that, right?
Right, the statute's actually interesting because it says, here's this local discretion. You can create an ordinance and have this local discretion, but there's limitations on the exemption. So, local government, we're gonna give you this discretion, but if you use it, you have to apply our rules.
Going to pull it back, yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's definitely food service type legislation.
Could we add the line at the bottom of that says you can pull up and use the aerial from the property appraiser's office?
Well, that I would be a little bit leery of, only because you're relying upon the property appraiser continuing to provide public access to a website. And if for some reason they decide not to, or they change formats, or
I don't
we
think
will
that's a
accept it.
yeah.
Well, we'll accept whatever we can that shows the dimensions and the information that's required.
And even
as long as
Google
you're-
Earth would give it to you.
Yes. So if you wanted to state that we would accept formats as long as they meet these minimum standards, I'm fine with that. But specifying one particular one or a particular type of program, I'd be a little leery of.
Do you use site inspection?
Yes.
Well, then I think if there's any discrepancy, they can pick it up at the site inspection.
I would agree that we
Yeah.
should think about
Yeah.
or use,
Yeah.
any other type of electronic media to show the specific site.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just don't want to limit it or reference
Right.
only one, because we would accept more than one.
Because aerials are not up to date.
That's correct.
Yeah.
That's
so
correct.
you-
There's a lag on the aerial, so the inspection will take care of any issues.
Okay.
Do we need to add that or
I'm
leave
just
it?
adding,
be?
including prints of electronic media.
There you go.
Drone.
There you-
I think that would work.
Yeah.
Okay.
My kids were, at 6 years old, probably could draw something for me. Hopefully, that would be acceptable. But this is out of the statute. The only thing I did different than the statute is I numbered the different requirements, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, rather than the situation where it's just one big sentence, because it is a glob. It's difficult
Right.
to read.
Right.
And then staff is recommending a fee of $50 per restaurant.
Is that yearly?
Yes. Initial application and annual renewals.
Okay.
I mean, we could do it 75 for initial application, 50 for annual. We don't.
I've got one more
Really just-
question.
Covers the
You're done.
inspection.
Okay.
When you have a revocation, that's the permit holder, right?
Uh-huh.
Because I'm thinking if he sells the restaurant to another individual, that individual doesn't have to go through a waiting period. He can just come in and apply for his permit.
He has a transfer that it's not upon sale, but it'll automatically expire, and then the subsequent owner will have to reapply.
But
Again.
yes.
Yeah,
if-
so the
if the previous-
revocation would be, okay.
Yes, a change in ownership would allow you to apply again.
Because something, I mean, if the guy abandons a restaurant, which we've seen before, and someone else comes in to start a restaurant, he can simply make a new application.
That's correct.
Cool.
And incidentally, that's another one of those wonderful statutory things. The state was very precise on this.
Now, in that transfer, it says here, subsequent owner upon the sale of the public food service establishment.
The restaurant owner, not the,
It could be restaurant owner, not, say,
Right.
owner of the building, for example.
For purposes of this change, in the case of a revocation, you would look at change of ownership of the restaurant,
the
not
restaurant.
change of ownership of necessarily the property.
right.
Because
And I'll
that
add
wouldn't
restaurant
impact.
owner.
We went through this mobile food vendor program a couple of weeks ago, and it became very apparent that the city has literally no authority over mobile ice cream trucks that travel around the neighborhood. They're not licensed by the city, and hopefully they're licensed by the state, but nobody knows. And we don't know who's driving them and so forth. And here again is a situation where they're not, do not have to apply, or do not have to, this does not apply to any mobile ice cream vendor that's driving around in a truck.
That's true, but in that particular case, if they're truly mobile the way they're intended to be mobile, they wouldn't be upon what would be considered restaurant property in the first place.
So they don't have to buy a $50 license.
Well, if you're walking your dog and the ice cream truck walks by, there wouldn't be a special permit so you can walk up to the
Yeah.
ice cream truck. with
Well,
the dog.
it's kind of the same thing if you're walking the dog and walk by my place.
There isn't
mean-
a whole lot of difference other than the fact that your place doesn't move anywhere.
Okay.
But no, I understand
But-
exactly what you're saying. You have that
But
outdoor area.
one of the things that kind of concerns me is we really don't know very much about the people and the equipment and the sanitary conditions and so forth of mobile ice cream vendors, whether they be bicycles or whether they be a truck. And that is something that I think of what we go through for sanitizing and cleaning machinery and so forth and so on every day. And then I look at this other and I wonder if there's a potential hazard running around there that we're not addressing. It's outside the scope of this, so
I
we'll-
think there are certain situations that definitely blur the line between mobile vending and outdoor dining.
Okay.
And I think that you're exactly right. How many situations might exist in the future, I have no idea. But there are situations I can think of right off the top of my head that could exist.
Are there any other comments from the board? I'd like to open this up to public comments. Anyone want to make?
Good morning, everybody.
Morning.
Morning.
My name is Richard Ferrera, Bonita Springs. I didn't come here purposely for this ordinance. I have something else in mind, but since I'm here, I think it's great, and I think it shows Bonita is thinking out of the box to allow animals in sidewalk cafe type situations. I agree with Rex. It's difficult to have local officials. They do this all the time in Tallahassee. They talk about home rule, and they submit 15,000 regulations on you, so you're strapped and you can't make decisions. We're all concerned about public health, but I don't see this as a real serious public health problem. I think that point was well taken, Rex, about having kind of a mobile sanitizer with adequate signs should be plenty enough to meet the requirement of the state. But when staff members write these laws up there, they sometimes go overboard, and this is a case in Article 3, Section 3 here. I mean, give me a break. But anyway, thanks for that, and I hope it passes. And I think the city council should get behind it as part of the new look in Bonita, what we hope to see. But I'd like to come back in a minute or so to talk about solar energy, and the DRGR, if I could, with your permission.
Well, we need to vote on this, and then can we do that?
Yes, that's what I mean.
Okay.
Yeah, okay?
Yes.
Thanks.
All right, we can vote on this. We hear 'em.
Yeah, but I just want to make sure I have all the changes.
Right,
Okay.
right.
Let's start at the beginning. We did a typo on page 1, and that was it. On page 2, I'm going to be adding a couple of things. I want to add, because we later on talk about restaurant owner as permit applicant. So I'm going to add that in parentheses right after permit applicant, and then the sentence that the permit applicant must obtain the authorization of the property owner. And actually, I'll change it to the restaurant owner must obtain it. On number 3, I'm going to add in or easements, although I'm not sure that's really necessary.
No, forget it, take it out.
Okay, thank you. Okay, and I'm going to add in the diagram or plans, and then add in parenthetical prints of, including prints of electronic media. So it can be a Google Earth page, it could be a property appraiser page, whatever drawing works out the best. I'm going to take out the lengthy reference to the division and call it the division after I reference it one time. On number 2 on page 3, I'm going to be adding, for purposes of this ordinance, this may be at a hand sanitizer station within easy reach of the tables or physically on the table. So it gives the option of either way. I'm going to add in number 3, unused paper products. So if somebody wants to use their old paper product before they throw it away, to give some to their dog rather than just throw it on the ground, that seems fair. And then the big change is talking about on transfer, that we're talking about, again, the restaurant owner, and adding a new section G. The property owner may revoke his consent to the permit at any time by submitting a letter indicating the date the permit is to cease. Proof that notice was given to the restaurant owner must be included in the revocation. In other words, we don't want to revoke a permit and have the restaurant still continuing because the owner didn't bother to tell us. So, and I may be adding a sentence in there that, it does not apply, there's no additional, a new permit can apply at any time, as well as what kind of notice we may have to give to the state on that, because I'm not sure if we do or we don't.
Fair enough.
Okay?
Okay.
I'll make the motion.
Like a motion?
I make a motion that we find this consistent with the comp plan.
Do I hear a second?
Second?
Okay. Take a roll call vote on that.
Don Colapetro,
Aye.
Fred Forbes,
Aye.
Henry Byrd,
Aye.
Bob Thinis,
Aye.
Rex Sims,
Aye.
Chairman Vincent.
Aye. The motion is adopted. Passed.
Thank you. Now you may go on to any other business.
Thank you. I'll be very brief. I just want to get on the record. The DRGR, as you know, there's going to be some, the reason I came to the LPA is because I believe that this is the thinking board. This is the board where very important decisions and recommendations are made to the city council. And it is the proper place, I think, for changes in land code use. The DRGR is going to be, has been in the past, and I remember when I was on the council, we spent thousands of dollars for consultants to come in and pancake some of the issues in certain parts of the DRGR. Some parts of the DRGR are really environmentally hurting right now and should be changed. There are other parts of DRGR that probably should not be, and that's a policy decision that's been going on for years since we took over from the county. But some of the uses, allowable uses, that's why I'm here, in landfills that are being capped or areas that have been excavated for sand and for road use that are open space, electric companies, energy companies, I should say, be more specific, are coming in and leasing the land for solar panels, solar projects, and selling the excess usage back to the power companies, the National Grid, and paying the landowners a pretty sizable profit for the lease, long-term lease of the land. Now, the benefit of the alternative energy project like that, I'm not talking windmills or, talking strictly solar. And there are parts of the DRGR that this board should look at seriously and having that as an allowable use. Anybody that thinks that the sun doesn't shine 12/7 in Florida doesn't have any skin nerves. If you walk out, first thing that hits you is that sunlight, and it's pretty steady. So if any place in the United States outside of Death Valley in Arizona or in Southern California, this is the ideal place for a solar energy industry. So the DRGR, I have the email of the consulting firm once, if ever they get hired, and I intend to send them some material and ask them to incorporate that in their thinking. But the reason I'm here this morning is to forewarn this board to be aware in the future of whether or not solar energy, solar farms. By the way, as an aside, Marathon Key, I believe, just went 95% solar. And it includes restaurants, and they expect to pay back within 5 years. My research so far shows that the technology is changing. You remember the old vacuum tube, and on the transistor, and then a microchip. Well, this is the way this solar industry is evolving. And right now, it's the cost is 80% less than what it was at the initial stage 20 years ago. So it's not that you're going to see solar energy overnight there. You may not get any investors until some of the Florida Power and Light restrictions, which are man-made restrictions, are taken out legislation so that excess energy can be sold back into the national grid product. So, in short, think about allowing solar energy companies to come in and use part of that DRGR area that is highly environmentally sensitive, and this is a very sensitive product. It will not harm the environment. It's static. It's almost maintenance-free. It doesn't impact on any of the waterways or the water products coming from that area. So it's a win-win. And if it were a city property and it was leased, the city would benefit just by having title to it. Energy companies are going to be much more available. Not only is it a 5-year payback in many cases, but there are federal grants and state grants available for alternative energy. So with that, I'll conclude. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Very informative. The next meeting is set up for Thursday, May 9th. Is that okay with the board?
Yeah, I believe, yeah.
When's Mother's Day?
Beg pardon?
Mother's Day is on the 12th.
12th.
Okay, that day is okay.
I'll
with you?
try to make it that morning.
Yeah. We'll be there right after the meeting.
Could be like today, and if we have just a simple ordinance or something.
Yeah,
or
that's right.
simple-
So the date is a good date.
Nothing, you guys did a lot of work this year.
At the YMCA, Lee County.
I'd like to have an approval of minutes.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Okay. Minutes have been approved. Adjourn.
Mine's gonna